Welcome back to Snorkel, everybody. It's Daniel and Johnny with our weekly Game of Thrones recap. We are episode 3 of season 7.
Shit.
Was this the best episode of the season so far?
Fuck yeah. No questions asked.
So, yeah,
I mean, it's like there's a lot to discuss, but there's not that much to discuss at the same time. Like, I feel like there were, I don't know, because I feel like at this point a lot of the characters that are being covered are like together in like these little separate chunks. So it's just 3 or 4 different locations that they go to.
Makes sense. I get you on that. I got my little list of topics we're going to talk about here, so let's dig in. Obviously,
the opening of this fucking episode, like the first 20 minutes is awesome. Like stuff you've been waiting the entire series for.
Yeah, so we've been waiting literally 7 seasons for Jon Snow to meet Daenerys Targaryen, and they finally met. The first scene, as far as I remember, was Jon getting off the boat, and you're just like, whoa,
it's gorgeous.
They're just jumping right into this shit. And Jon Snow gets greeted by Tyrion and Davos, obviously.
Which is really cool.
Yep, and Missandei. And they're like, you know, having little pleasantries. They're walking up to Dragonstone to go talk to Daenerys.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the fucking dragon...
Yeah.
And Jon Snow and Davos obviously get freaked out.
It's like
yeah, literally.
Right over their heads. And it's the first time they've ever seen dragons, so.
Yeah, and we kind of take it for granted because we see the dragons all the time as viewers. And Drogon, like, buzzes over Jon Snow and Davos' head, and then Tyrion's like, well, yeah, I would say you get used to it, but you never quite get used to it.
You really don't get used to it. And it's just really cool to see new characters, like, experience the dragons for the first time. And one thing I noticed in this whole scene, but the whole episode as well, is the dialogue was really smart and like snappy this episode. Like it was really good back and forth, especially between Jon and Dany. It starts out and she's like really trying to like put on a show, like make her seem really badass, which she is. You know, she's done all this crazy shit, which they hit on all those different things to try to impress Jon. And he's not really all that impressed. I mean, he is, but he knows that what she's trying to do, and he can't let her do it, basically.
So I do see Daenerys, as time goes on, and she's getting closer and closer and closer to taking the Iron Throne, potentially, that she's getting more political, as opposed to just being, like, a savior of sorts. People are, like, legitimately looking at her like, you know, you're going to be the queen, and she's kind of acting like that, and she's kind of getting an attitude, if you will. She's, like, insistent on Jon bending the knee.
Yeah.
And he's like, no.
And Tyrion, you know, said however many, you know, seasons ago at this point, like, you're a part of the great game now. Like, you're not, this isn't a fuck around, you know, session at this point. You actually are actively going to war with these people that have been succeeding all along in Cersei and Jaime, and it's just like, well, fuck. And not only is she going into war against the Lannisters, but right now, she isn't doing so fucking hot. Can't lie.
Yeah, Jon is refusing to bend the knee. Again, they're in the Great Hall, obviously, at Dragonstone at this point. Yeah. Actually meeting Daenerys for the first time. So how does Missandei introduce Daenerys Targaryen?
Yeah, she you know...
Give me a little...
I don't know if I could do all of it.
Not all of it, but how would she kind of do it?
It's like, this is Daenerys Stormborn of the House Targaryen... You know, Mother of Dragons, Breaker of Chains, the Unburnt, the fucking the Grass Queen, or
the Unsullied.
Yeah, and
then how would Davos introduce Jon Snow?
Davos was like, "This is Jon Snow.
This is Jon Snow,
King of the North." And I was like, it's so deadpan. Like it's like I said, the dialogue was really good this episode, and it just made things a lot more interesting, even more than they already are. And really, at the end of this opening sequence, it was, okay, you two are going to stay here for a little while, and we'll see what happens. Because she gets bad news that Euron fucked up their entire fleet for the most part, and the Greyjoys are fucked, Ilaria, the Sand Snakes, and so she's not very pleased, and she's kind of like getting back into a corner. So at this point, Daenerys she doesn't take Davos and Jon Snow prisoner, but they're not necessarily allowed to leave until he's like ready to bend the knee or whatever. So they jump back. Like she gets that information, like Johnny just said, that the Sand Snakes have been captured and then all that stuff with Euron with the Navy. So you go over to the capital, and Euron is there, and he marches right the fuck in on his horse.
He's parading, with the horse.
It's crazy.
In the prisoners of war, basically. And then he throws them up, to Cersei on the Iron Throne, and the Mountain standing there looking like a badass.
He's huge. He's big as fuck. I mean, which we already know at this point. It's just crazy to see him up there. And the room's full of people, so he really stands out. But Ilaria, which is really the leader of Dorne at this point, and her daughter, the last Sand Snake, they're given as the gift to Cersei, and Cersei says, okay, thank you for this, but you're not going to be king. We're not going to, until after the war is over. And it's kind of like, okay, this probably isn't gonna ever happen, but Euron's like, messing around with Jamie, saying, how should I have sex with her, blah blah blah, and it's just like, god damn, this guy is such a douchebag, and so really now he leaves with Asha Greyjoy, Theon's sister. And so she is still safe at this point, which is kind of cool because I like her obviously more than the Dornish people. But
she's as safe as a prisoner of war.
Yeah. And so Ilaria and her daughter are chained up in the dungeon. Cersei's down there, and there's this amazing scene where Cersei kind of like she owns the entire room.
It's a long scene, and she's basically going over with them like, how should I kill you? You killed my daughter. You poisoned her, and then how should I kill you? Should I have the mountain crush your head?
Yeah, and this is literally in the entire series, there's one moment in the scene where Cersei actually shows real emotion. Like, she like was kind of like her like voice cracked when she was talking about her daughter like being killed, like her only daughter. And she was like, I was like, holy shit, like she's really upset about this, which, obviously, but it's just so strange because Cersei is such an insane, like, evil person at this point. But she goes over in front of Ilaria, who's chained up, and her daughter's chained up on the opposite side, so they can't really like reach each other or anything, and they're both gagged. And she kisses her on the mouth, and obviously, like, harkens back to what Ilaria did to her daughter. And so this poison though is even worse because it doesn't kill her immediately. She's gonna like die very slowly, and then Ilaria's punishment is that she's not gonna get executed. She's going to live in the dungeon and watch her daughter die and then rot.
Yeah.
And she's gonna live there forever as with her daughter's corpse, basically, her bones.
Yep. So yeah, that's gonna be a horrible. And for a moment, I was like, oh, okay, Cersei, I got you. I understand you're upset about your child. And then like instantly they switch it again, and she's like bad guy at 101.
Yeah.
And she like leaves, and then she's storming out of the cell. I'm just like, fuck Cersei, man.
She's good, man. You gotta give it to her.
And then they kind of cut back to, actually, Theon, I believe, was rescued around this time of the episode. Yeah. It was a very, very short scene. They just pull him out of the water.
They're not happy with him.
They're not happy with him. They're like, they took your sister, and he's like, I tried to rescue her. And they're like, if you tried to rescue her, you wouldn't be here because you'd be dead, basically. Which is true, but I kind of feel for Theon/Reek because it looks like he's reverting back to that.
I definitely feel bad for him. I mean,
100%.
It's just, hopefully he gets some sort of redemption later on.
Yep. Sam, also, they go back to the Citadel, and he has fully cured a very scarred up Jorah Mormont.
Jorah is looking like shit, but he looks a lot better than he did last week. The grayscale's completely gone, and he's going to live. So, Jim Broadbent's character, I can't remember the name of the head guy, basically, at the Citadel. He's inspecting him. He's like, how is this possible? And they don't say what they did. But then he walks out, and Sam and Jorah have this nice little goodbye, and Jorah says he's going to go back and try to get with Daenerys and help her out, which would be really awesome. I would love to see him back at her side, kicking ass. But they like go separate ways, and then Sam goes and gets, he gets yelled at a little bit, but he gets to stay. He's not like really in trouble. And he gets sent to this like little duty of transcribing these things, which is a little interesting. We'll get back to that later.
Yeah, so they kind of leave Sam there as well. Not a long scene, but it finished up that little bit of a story arc there with Jorah, where he's cured, and Jorah can go back to Dany. Who knows how long it's going to take him to get to her?
Yeah.
Maybe next episode for all we know.
Yeah, especially with the timelines.
Yeah, and then Sam obviously could have been kicked out of the Citadel because of what he did, but at the same time they're going to keep him there because they want him to be around, obviously. His heart was in the right place.
And he did something that no one else has done.
Yeah.
So,
and they asked him,
you gotta keep him.
They asked him how he did it, and he was just like, well, I just follow the instructions in the book.
Yeah, the banned books that they're not allowed to use that are like perfect cures. What the fuck?
Mm-hmm. The Iron Bank also came calling to Cersei this episode, basically, telling her you're fighting a war, fighting wars on all fronts here, fighting battles. You have many enemies.
And you have a ton of fucking debt.
Have a ton of debt, and they want their money back. Because as a couple of seasons ago, obviously, they went and got a huge loan for money. And basically she said, I need 2 to 3 weeks. She said a fortnight.
Yeah.
Don't know how long that is.
I think it's like a week, a week and a half or something.
So like 10 days or whatever. She said, I'll pay the debt in full. You can stay here. It's the guy from the Iron Bank, the representative. Yeah. And he was like, you can stay here as like a VIP guest of mine.
Yeah.
And then the debt will be paid.
Yeah, and like the Iron Bank guy was like kind of creepy too.
Yeah. So I was unsure. I was like, well, how is she going to, fortnight? Yeah. Like, how is she going to defeat these people in a fortnight? Like, what the hell is going to happen? So
she fucking pulls it off.
Yep.
Spoiler alert.
Go back to Dragonstone Tyrion and Jon are having a conversation. Jon is still unsure of anybody believing him about the White Walkers or whatever, and the dead coming to kill everybody.
And this scene was really cool because I love both these characters, obviously, but it goes back again to season 1 where they were standing on the ledge of the wall looking out, and here they're on another cliff looking out, and they're kind of just having a heart-to-heart trying to figure out like what's the best way to go about what their next steps are, essentially.
So basically the ending of the Jon Snow and Tyrion conversation on top of the cliff was Tyrion knew Jon wasn't going to bend the knee, basically.
Yeah.
But he was like, well, what can I help you with? Because I can't send you back to Winterfell at this moment, basically. Yeah. And then they cut back to Dany talking to Tyrion, and she basically doesn't understand why he wants Dragonglass, thinks it's stupid, still doesn't believe him about the White Walkers. And he's like, well, if you don't think there's anything with the Dragonglass, just give it to him.
Yeah.
He thinks he's getting something in return, but really you don't give a shit.
Even if he doesn't really, if it's not going to do anything, it'll make him feel better.
Exactly.
So Tyrion's really doing a good job of pulling the strings, weaving this little partnership together, and hopefully it'll pay off. Because at this point they're both getting a decent deal.
Yeah, exactly. So Dany and Jon have the conversation. She still doesn't believe him. She doesn't want to tell him that, so she just kind of plays it off. Yeah. But she's like, have the Dragonstone. You can have it, or Dragonglass. Sorry. Yeah. So we didn't get to see Jon go yet off to go find it, because who knows what it's going to look like. It looked like it was a bit away from the castle, like down and to the right.
Yeah.
On the map that we saw.
They have to like mine the shit.
Yeah. So who knows? She said she's going to send men with them, so it'll probably be Dothraki or whatever.
Who knows? And another thing, how long is this shit going to take?
Yeah.
They really Jon's whole point was they don't have time.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's fixed pretty quickly. And at the beginning of the episode, Dany was talking about how. Why do I need you again? And obviously, Jon is saying that she needs him because without him, they're not going to be able to defeat the Night King. Mm-hmm. Which is true. They need everyone, basically. But now she really needs him because at the end of this episode, shit completely goes fuck up for Daenerys' forces, basically.
Well, Missandei wasn't in the conversation. Basically, they did get into, okay, the Unsullied are going to Casterly Rock.
Yeah.
So Casterly Rock, you see Tyrion's kind of explaining as they go. I guess his dad built Casterly Rock. Why can't I say Casterly Rock from the ground up? It had Tyrion build the sewers and drainage, I guess. And Tyrion built a secret entrance to help himself get women in and out of the castle, because his dad didn't want him to be doing that, obviously. So he gave those secret plans to the Unsullied. Basically, part of the Unsullied were going, fighting against the wall and trying to jump up over the wall to get their attention, and then a handful of other guys were going to go through these secret tunnels by Tyrion.
Yeah, Grey Worm goes underneath, and Tyrion does a great callback. This episode is full of great callbacks. So the Bronn quote, when he's talking about the castle, he's saying, "Give me 10 good men and I'll impregnate the bitch," which they in fact do. And Grey Worm is badass. He's kicking so much ass in this little battle. And they take the castle, and everything seems great. And then you see out in the bay, the ships they came on are getting wrecked by Euron, who shows up, pretty much ambushes them. And also Grey Worm realizes there aren't enough men here. Where are the other men at? Mm-hmm. They're of course fucking up Highgarden, which is where Olenna is, and the Tyrells,
and the gold.
Because they're the richest family now. And so they're defeated cleanly, and Jaime goes in, and the final scene is a little discussion between him and Olenna.
Yeah, and basically, Olenna's like, well, I'm here, obviously you're going to kill me. Are you going to kill me with a sword, or are you going to beat the shit out of me, or what are you going to do? Jaime pulls out a little vial and basically puts it in her wine or her drink, and then just kind of pushes the glass over.
Jaime's a nice guy.
Jaime's basically being a nice guy at this point. Even though he's still doing some fucked up shit, he's still trying to be nice about it. She drinks it and asks if it's going to be painful. He says no. He made sure it wasn't going to be painful. And then she's like, well, I didn't want to die like Joffrey, your son, and just made it a big show of it, he was grasping at his neck, and it made everybody feel uncomfortable. I want Cersei to know that I did that. And then Jaime, I thought he was going to pull out a sword and cut her head off.
He was pissed. This is obviously the first time he's ever finding out that Olenna pulled off this assassination, and he just storms off and leaves her to die. And it was so interesting to see that revelation finally come out to him. And oh my god, I get when Cersei finds out. I mean, she's dead already, of course.
Yeah, so fuck. Who knows? There might resuscitate her fucking body and
Yeah.
So that was the last part of the episode, but another part of the episode right before that. Sansa is basically leading Winterfell at this point because Jon's away. She's making little decisions about getting, food for everybody. If all the armies of the north come to Winterfell, they need to have enough food for everybody. In the meantime, someone runs over and was like, "Oh, there's something at the front gate for you, Sansa." So they storm over, and instantly you knew because the music changed and the tone changed.
Oh man.
I thought Arya was going to be back.
I thought it could have been Arya.
Arya was not back. It was Bronn. Not Bronn. It was Bran. Not Bronn. Bran came in because remember last episode we saw him go through the tunnel at the wall.
Yeah.
He's back at Winterfell
Finally.
after all this time. And he didn't really show much emotion. Sansa was over the moon about seeing her little brother.
She was like crying, she's like, holy shit. Because really it's just been her and Jon. Arya's fucking Rickon's dead. So to see, another sibling after all these years is pretty fucking emotional. They cut to them underneath the tree, and like you said, Bran is pretty he's not fully human anymore.
He's full three-eyed raven.
Yeah, he's pretty much getting to that point, and he is talking to her and trying to explain. He says it's difficult to explain, and Sansa's just asking for him to do his best, and he talks about how nice she looked on her wedding night and how he felt so bad about all this shit she had to go through with getting raped basically.
Ramsay. Yeah.
And Ramsay just fucking up Winterfell for weeks and weeks, and so she's obviously shaken by that, the fact that he knows that and can see all that, and so she gets up and leaves, and Bran is left under the tree. It's kind of where do they go from here? It's going to be interesting to see how that relationship goes and how Bran, he says, yeah, you're right. I'm the rightful ruler of Winterfell, but I can't be. I have to do this duty now. It's out of my hands. So it's going to be really interesting. Arya is going to be coming soon. You gotta imagine Jon whenever he gets back. It's all bets are off as far as Winterfell goes.
Overall, what's your score for the episode?
This was a fantastic episode. Think there's not much wrong with it. I'm gonna go 9.5 probably. It was better than last week, and last week I gave that a 9. So I think there could have been a little bit more in this episode, maybe with regards to action. But I mean, everything that they showed was awesome. There's characters meeting up again. There's a lot of development and stuff. So yeah, this is as good as it gets.
I do struggle grading these episodes because it's easy with movies, I guess, because there's, most movies aren't connected like this. So it's different scoring as opposed to episodes every single week. Man. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It's very high quality. Again, not action-packed on the battlefield necessarily. There was some of that, but it just shows how good a lot of the actors were. I did notice early in the episode that a lot of the scenes seemed a little bit longer than normal, they were really drawn out, if you will. And the actors obviously were top-notch. And I think as the point that you brought up earlier, it seemed a little bit more lively and a little bit more quick-witted. Mm-hmm. And I think that was because Tyrion was featured more in this episode than he has been. I don't think even in the first episode of the series, they were in it for literally 2 seconds, and he didn't even have a line in it. Last week, a little bit more. This week, even more for him. So that was definitely a part of it. You want to wrap up? Oh, do you want to talk about maybe... Well, I don't want to talk about what's coming up too much.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't really show anything really specific, but...
Alright guys, that was our recap for episode 3 of season 7 for Game of Thrones. Man, we're not halfway over the season yet, but we're almost.
We're going to be over halfway after next week.
After next week. They've shortened it so much. 3 episodes doesn't seem like that much, but it really is when there's only 10 fucking episodes. Yeah. We do appreciate you guys watching. Watch all of our other Game of Thrones videos and our analysis.
Leave your comments down below. Let us know what you think about everything that's going on right now in the world of Westeros, and keep it locked in to Snorkel.